So, have you ever wished you could just blast away years of grime without using a single drop of water or any harsh chemicals? Well, that's pretty much the promise of dry ice blasting. But here's the big question. Is this super futuristic cleaning tech actually a smart move for your business? In this explainer, we're going to break down the real cost, everything from buying the machine to what you can expect for a long-term return on your investment. So, let's dive right in. And honestly, it's so true. This quote really hits the nail on the head because the technology does feel like it's straight out of a movie. I mean, we're talking about using tiny pellets of frozen carbon dioxide to literally blast away gunk. But how does that sci-fi idea actually work as a tool you can use every day? We've got a fair bit to get through, so here's a quick look at the game plan. First, we'll get into the science of how it all works. Then we're jumping straight into the numbers, what these machines cost, what makes that price go up or down, and the big one, should you buy or rent? And finally, we'll look at the total cost of ownership to see if this whole thing really pays off. By the end, you'll know exactly what you need to know. Okay, section 1, the hook and the how. Before we even start talking about money, we've got to get on the same page about what this technology is, and more importantly, why it works so incredibly well. So, what's the secret sauce here? Well, it all comes down to a really cool bit of physics called sublimation. You know how regular ice melts into water, right? Well, dry ice is different. It's a solid, but when it hits a surface, it completely skips the liquid phase and explodes straight into a gas. That super fast expansion creates these tiny shockwaves that just lift dirt and grime right off. No water, no chemicals, nothing. It's just gone. The actual process is incredibly straightforward. It's really just 3 simple steps. 1, the machine uses compressed air to shoot the pellets out at super high speed. 2, those little frozen pellets smack into whatever you're cleaning. And 3, a split second later, they vaporize. And that explosive force does all the heavy lifting for you. It's so elegant and really, really powerful. And this is exactly why so many businesses are getting excited about it. For one, it's non-abrasive. That means you can clean super sensitive electronics or intricate machinery without worrying about damage. It's also way better for the environment, no chemical runoff. But maybe the biggest win for day-to-day operations, no secondary waste. Think about sandblasting. You have to clean up all that sand afterwards. With this, the cleaning medium literally vanishes into thin air. All right, let's get to it. Section 2, the part I know you've been waiting for. Let's talk money. Let's break down the price tag. How much is one of these machines actually going to cost you? So, starting on the more affordable end, you've got your entry-level machines. These guys usually fall somewhere between $3,000 and $10,000. They're pretty much perfect for smaller operations, like an auto shop that wants to deep clean engine bays or a restoration company dealing with smoke damage. They're light, they're easy to use, but as you'd expect, you're not getting the raw power of the more expensive models. Now, if we step it up a notch, we get into the mid-range units. For somewhere between 10 and 25 grand, you're getting a much more serious machine. This is really the sweet spot for a lot of commercial and industrial businesses, maybe for cleaning manufacturing equipment or prepping surfaces. You get way more power, way more versatility, but the one thing you have to keep in mind is you'll probably need a bigger air compressor to run it. And at the very top, you've got the heavy hitters, the industrial-grade machines. We're talking $25,000, $50,000, sometimes even $75,000 or more. These are a major investment, no doubt about it. They're built like tanks for nonstop, heavy-duty use in big factories, and a lot of them are even designed to be integrated right into an automated production line. All right, section 3. Now that we've got those price ranges in our heads, it's super important to realize they're just starting points. There are a bunch of other things that can really change what you end up paying. Yeah, that sticker price is just part of the story. There are 4 big things to think about. First, brand reputation. A well-known, trusted name is probably going to cost you more upfront, but what you're really paying for is proven reliability. Then there are all the bells and whistles. Fancy features like digital touchscreens or automated controls will add to the cost. Next, accessories. Do you need special nozzles to get into tight corners? That's an add-on. And finally, you have to consider warranty and support packages. A better warranty gives you peace of mind, but it's another line item on the invoice. So, now that we have a much clearer picture of the costs, let's tackle the big fork in the road. Should you buy one of these things? Or should you just rent one when you need it? This is a really big decision that will definitely affect your bottom line. Looking at them side by side really clarifies things. Renting is awesome because the upfront cost is super low. It's perfect if you just have a one-time job, and hey, if it breaks, maintenance is someone else's problem. On the flip side, buying it outright is where you'll see massive long-term savings. You get a much better return on your investment, especially if you're going to be using it all the time. So, how do you actually make that call? Well, here's a fantastic little rule of thumb to go by. If you can see your business using a dry ice blaster at least 10 times in a year, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Buying it is going to pay for itself really quickly. If it's going to be less than that, you're probably better off just renting. And that leads us perfectly into our last section, figuring out the real cost of ownership. Because that initial purchase price, that's just the beginning. To really understand your return on investment, you have to look at all the ongoing costs too. This chart gives you a really clear picture of where your money's going to go after you buy the machine. The big one, by far, is the dry ice itself. That's going to be your main operational cost. Then you've got your yearly maintenance to keep it running smoothly. And finally, you've got a budget for replacing wearable parts like nozzles and hoses. You have to factor all this in to see the full financial picture. So, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? After you pay for the machine and the ice and the upkeep, does this thing actually make you money? Let's look at a couple of real-world examples. Get this, 6 months. That's it. It only took 6 months for a small auto detailing shop to completely pay off their $3,000 machine. How? By offering brand new, high-end cleaning services they couldn't offer before. That is an incredibly fast return. And then, on the complete other end of the scale, an electronics factory saved over $20,000 not once, but every single year. That was all from cutting down on labor costs and reducing how long their machines were offline for cleaning. That just shows you the huge long-term value these things can have. Now, if that initial price still feels like a hurdle, just remember you don't necessarily have to pay for it all in one go. There are a lot of options out there, like equipment leasing programs, financing directly from the company you're buying from, or even small business loans that can make a purchase a whole lot more manageable. So let's just quickly wrap up with the key takeaways. First and foremost, make sure you match the machine to what you actually need it for. Don't overbuy. Second, always remember to factor in those other costs, like the brand and any extra accessories. Third, do that crucial math on buying versus renting. And finally, don't forget to budget for your ongoing costs, the ice and the maintenance. And we'll just leave you with this one last question to chew on. We've spent all this time talking about the cost of buying a dry ice blaster. But when you think about all the potential savings in time, in labor, and downtime, it's worth asking yourself, what's the real cost of not upgrading? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.